Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear the words coming out of my mouth? Just let me know. Thank you, Warren, for letting me know. Hello, everyone. Yeah, let's see. Caldwell, Idaho, and Nauvoo, welcome. Hello from Toowoomba, Queensland. Well, Australia. Hope it's not too late for you. I don't know if it's early or late. I'd have to go look up what Australia time is. Welcome. We'll just give it a few more minutes here. We're not quite at 7:30. I saw people were waiting. I thought I'd go ahead and get it going so we can make sure we're hearing each other well, or I'm hearing you well, or you're hearing me well. I guess is what I should say. You can tell my hair is getting a little long. I need to get a haircut soon. It's getting too unruly. Let's see. I'm reading the questions that people put in here. Maine, hello from Mason, Ohio, Maine, and Duluth, Georgia. Boy, we're all over today. That's great. Clinton, Missouri, and Edmonton, Alberta. Logan, Utah. There you go. Still cold in Logan, I hear. I see that it's in the 20s or 30 degrees, something like that. We were pretty comfortable here in Provo in the 50s, I guess. So, What time are we at? Oh, we're 7:31. So thank you people for coming. Sorry that I haven't done this for a little while. We'll try to get back into the habit. I've already scheduled this week and in 2 weeks, and on a Thursday we'll have the next one. So keep those questions coming so we have things to talk about. So let me go ahead and get started here. Let me get up to where the initial question was asked. And let me do one of the questions from those that sent it in. So this is Debbie. She says, when will the option to print an FOR be removed from the ordinance page? I was able to attend the temple recently and thought I will just take an FOR and have my cards printed at the temple. That was a no-go. You have to understand the different phases of the temple. And right now we have phase 1, which I think is you can just go get your own ordinance. Phase 2, which they allow ceilings and stuff like that. And then they have now a new one called phase 2B, which is baptistry. So you can, the youth and groups, I think it was not more than 16 can go to a baptistry and do baptisms for the dead. And then there's phase 3, where you can do your personal ordinances and you can do some proxy ordinances. But all during any of these phases, 1, 2, 2B, or 3, the temple is not printing cards for anybody. So they don't want to handle them and pass them around within the facility, within the temple. So you have to print your own cards until we get to phase 4. So when we're in phase 4, then that's when you'll be able to have the temple print your cards. I think there's still plans where the FOR can still be used to take to the temple, and then they'll print your cards for you. And so the FOR choice is not going to be taken away. It's just not very useful until you have a temple that's in phase 4. Okay, so I want to make sure you understand that one. So that was Debbie that asked for that one. So now I'll go look at the chat. And Warren asked the question, the new completed ordinance function is really great. Is there a time frame when we can have a download feature for the information? Capturing 60 screens of information is laborious. Yeah, there's been a couple of people since we released that have talked about being able to download. So I've been thinking about it, but I haven't talked to my developer teams to do that work yet, but I think it's something we can look at. We could probably send down a CSV file for those who understand that, and that'll allow you to import it into spreadsheets, so that then you could keep it, in the Excel spreadsheet or other tools that accept spreadsheets kind of material. So let me write that one down, Warren. Export completed list to spreadsheet. Now, recognize that the completed list is not all of your ordinances you've ever done. There's some people that would have tens of thousands and more in that list, and that's just too much for the system to deal with. So we're only doing, if I remember right, 2 years or 5,000, I think it is. I'd have to go look. I thought I had it remembered, but my brain's fallen out. So it could be 2,000 or 3,000 or 2 years. I know that it's going to be at least 2 years, and it could be up to 5,000, I think is what it was. But I'll go see if I can remember that somewhere. I wrote it down somewhere. Okay, then Nancy says, with some of the temples open for baptisms, are expiration dates now going to start ticking? And the answer is no. We're not planning on, we're planning to continue to extend reservations until at least majority, if not all of the temples are into phase 4. So we don't want to run any risk where somebody is somewhere where they can't do the ordinances and then they lose them, or they get shared to the temple for you for you automatically. We don't want anybody to lose that just because their temple is closed and not ready to accept patrons. So even though that's not a definitive answer from the temple department, we believe our feeling is we'll probably wait until all the temples are open to start the expiration dates again. Marion says, I have read that the temples will not return cards. Does that mean that I have to print a new card for every ordinance that I want to do? No, you don't have to do it for every ordinance. It depends on how many ordinances you're doing at the temple. So if you are in a temple that's like phase 3, where you can do some proxy work, you could do multiple. You could have a card that does baptism and confirmation and initiatories and endowment, as long as you do all of them that one day that you're there. All at that time you're visiting. That one visit, you're going to do all 4 of those ordinances. You can do that. You just need to let them know that you brought a card and you want to complete that card, or at least whatever you have on that card, and then they should allow you to go do each of those things. If those, I'm assuming that if they're in phase 3, they're able to do that for you. If you're only going for just an endowment, then yeah, you'd have to print the endowment or the initiatory, and then you'd have to print another card to come back another day for the endowment. So yes, you'd have to do that. It's 3,000. Thank you, Warren. I couldn't remember whether it was 2,000 or 5,000 or whatever. So thank you, 3,000. Donna asks, please, I need to rearrange pictures and memories. Well, currently, we only allow one place where you can rearrange pictures. I think that team is thinking about that for other places, but right now what you can do is you can go into an album and you can rearrange the pictures in an album. And that was the first thing they started. And then in the memories world, we found that there's kind of bigger explosion, and there's some of the code and stuff is things that's old enough where we need to really rewrite pieces of it. So they're in the process of rewriting, and when they're rewriting, they're going to add some new capabilities and features. So be a little patient with us. I believe the intent there is to allow you to arrange things. I think people want to arrange things on the person page memory tab. And usually most people want it to be like from youngest to oldest is usually what most people want. So I encourage people to be sure and go in and put in the dates, places, and so forth, that where the picture was taken, so that I think I'm encouraging them to allow a way to push a button and have it all rearranged based on the dates that you put into the information about the memory. So we'll keep following up on that. So I'm going to go back over here and do one that was entered in the list from earlier. This is from Linda. She says, I've been asked this and I can't remember your answer. If I share an ordinance with the temple and someone requests it but doesn't get it done in their allotted time, which would be 90 days, does the ordinance return to me or to its original place in the shared temple file? And the answer is it returns to its original place in the shared temple file. So it doesn't get unshared just because somebody took it and didn't finish it. It just goes back into the shared temple list in the order that was in. So if it was, number 500 in the list, then it'll go back and be number 500 again. We do it based on dates and times. And so the ones that have been in there the longest are the ones at the top of the list to be given out. So that's how that works, Linda. Welcome, Keith from Las Vegas. I'll do another one from those that have written in. It says the Social Security death index, when shown as a hint for a person, does not show any information. I've noticed this for the last 2 to 3 weeks. Previously, it would show info, death, date, birth date, etc. I've noticed this for multiple people, so it seems to be fairly consistent. Well, I actually went in there and looked at that. This is Mary. I actually went in and looked at the PID that you're talking about, and it works fine for me. So I believe you need to do some refreshing on your browser close the browser or remove some of the familysearch.org cookies. That's what I would do. You should be able to go do that through your browser. You just say, show me the cookies, and it'll show you. And then you could say you filter by familysearch.org, delete all of those cookies, and then close the browser and then restart the browser. So I've seen where that'll kind of clean up things. So try that, because it was working just fine for me. I did the actual proposed hint, and I clicked it, and I could see all of the data, and I could even click to do the source linker, and it lined up just fine. So it's probably the browser that you need to sort of clean up and refresh. All right, Rodney, what is the most effective way to do a search for a book, limiting the number of results to search through? Yeah, that's a tough problem, because it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a particular name, there could be thousands of that same name in different books. Sometimes it's reprints of that same book that'll show up. If you know the author of the book, I believe you can put in the author. I haven't done that recently, so I might be inaccurate, but I believe you can put in an author. That would help, or the name of the book. Sometimes if you know the name of the book, that helps, and then you can search there. So it's I don't know of any other. Let me take a picture of this. I'm going to take a picture of the screen, so I have that. And I don't know of any other particular way. I'll go look and see if I can figure out a way that's better. I'll go ask my team that does that book searching, the team that does that, not necessarily mine, and see what they do. If it's some better choices there, and I'll get back to that. So let me make a note here about searching in books more effectively. All right. What I usually do is either I know the name of the book, or I look at the name and just make sure, and I may look for the Tanner or something like that, because I knew some of those books were written by a Tanner. So that's what I do. All right, Nancy, some of the IGI records have been retired. Social Security. So when you search for a marriage in the IGI, it is not there. Had to restore a bad merge to get the Social Security to display. SS. Oh, okay. Well, let me talk a little bit about IGI records. This is not something that everybody knows right at the moment, because people, it's a concept that was around pre-family tree. The IGI was actually made up of two sets of data. One set of data was extractions that were done by members of the church, where we sent records to all these people that were volunteers, and they transcribed the information and put them on cards. And then later they did the same thing, but put it on computer floppy disks way back when. And some of the information in the IGI was based on records, because those were extracted from records. And some of the information in the IGI came from pedigree charts that were submitted by members of the church. We're talking, back in the 70s and stuff like that, 70s and 80s. Either paper ones that we extracted the data from, or when we had PAF things. And so the IGI stuff that is in Family Tree are only the records that deal with only the information that deals with actual extracted records, and not the genealogies type stuff that were put in. Okay. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. That's why you may see a discrepancy there. Linda C., I noticed a new presentation for record hints this week, and then it disappeared. When will that start? I like it. The new presentation for record hints was turned on 100% for everybody 2 days ago, I think it was. 2 or 3 days ago. So it should be out there. It's a new presentation, has a new layout. There is one thing that few people have talked about, is over in the corner. If it's been attached to somebody, it looks more like a little paper clip with a with a piece of paper with a clip on it. And some have been frustrated with that because it doesn't look like a record hint kind of thing, record icon. So let me know how you feel about that. As you know, my email is ron@familysearch.org. You can send me those things and let me know how you feel about that. So Mary Elliott, how do I go about taking out my endowments when the temples are open? When they're open, what you'll do, and this is you could do it now because it's phase 1 stuff, I think. You can, of course, you have to make sure you have a recommend, all that kind of stuff. And then you just go into your app. There's an app. You can call the temple, or you can go into your Tools app. And in your Tools app, you can't see this at all. This is terrible. You can't see that. But in the Tools app, there's a More button. You click the More button, and on there has the word temples. You can click the temple, and I thought it was in there. Let's see. Oh, it just has the prayer rolls and the ordinances ready on mine. I don't know if it has an update. It may have an update for me, because I think you can also schedule an appointment with them. So I haven't looked for a while. Let me go I'll look real quick and see if there's an update to that. Tools, LDS Tools kind of thing. I don't see any updates on there. So it hasn't come my way. So if you don't have it in Tools where you can schedule an appointment, then you just call the temple when they open. And I think probably the reason why it's not on mine is because it's a Provo temple and they're not open. So it may not be there yet. But when it's open, you can call the temple and just say, I want to come get my endowments. They'll get your information and they'll give you a time for you to show. I'll go back over here to the other list. It says we have, this is from Colleen, we have a real push in our stake to do indexing. In the last couple of weeks, there were several different beginners projects, but now the intermediate and advanced are the only options. Who puts the new batches on web indexing? Well, that's done by the records team. We have a team here responsible for getting records indexed, and they go through the process of collecting the sets of things, breaking it up into 10 or 15 so the batches aren't too big, and then they put them out. But beginner projects are pretty popular because they're easy and people can get through them really quick. Intermediate's a little tougher. Advanced is, I'd stay away from it unless you've done a bunch of indexing. So I'll pass that on. Let's see, need more beginner indexing batches. There's often call for beginner batches. It's a good thing to do, man. Those extract information from those records, because you learn about records, and that's a great way to learn, is to do the indexing for them. For those of you who are out there doing that, by the way, this stake, if your stake's going to do this, I want to caution you to not do any competition. If you're doing competition between wards to see who can do the most, that is when we get the worst indexing results. And we usually have to throw away a lot of indexing data, because what people will do, what some people will do, is they'll just paste in the same data for every record because they want to win. They want to be the first ward to have 1 million indexes. And so they'll just do it incorrectly. They'll just copy and paste the same data over and over and over, and then all of those records are ruined. And we go and do a little audit in there. We find that someone's done this, and we have to throw away all the indexes and start over again with other people. So if you're going to do any indexing in your wards or stake, make sure there's no competition involved. It may be the competition is making sure that none of your records are bad or something like that. I don't know. Somehow you have to make it less about the numbers and more about the quality, because we have had plenty of problems in those areas. Here's another one from our community. Let me just go through that, and then I'll get back over and answer some more on the. Keep asking questions though in the live, and we'll get to them. Could you please address a topic that came up on the community discussion boards under tips and tricks? So here's the question. Person one's opinion. When coming to a person's family tree record in which they displayed a place name has more information than the standard, the additional part of the place name should always be removed and placed in the reason statement under vitals or description of residence under other information. Doing so causes a flood of new hints because the hint engine is blocked by the addition information in the place name. Example, place name, Ravengr, this is in Norway, so I'm going to say it wrong, Askøy Hordaland, Norway, and the standard is Askøy Hordaland, Norway. That's one user's opinion, and when found to be changed to Askøy Hordaland, Norway, and standardized in the same amount. This will cause many more hints to appear because the place name is now identical to the standard version. Person two's opinion. When coming to a person's family tree record in which the display place name has more information than the standard, the additional part of the place name should remain in place because it adds accuracy to family tree and is where people expect to read the full place name information. The hint engine functions strictly on the standardized version, does not care what is in the display text, and is not inhibited by extra information in displayed text. Yeah, so basically what she's saying, is that there's two opinions. One is when you get a hint, and the data in the hint has more information. When the data in the hint has less information than what's already on the tree, should you replace it with the data from the hint, from the record, and or should you leave the data that's already there in the person that has more information, like maybe a locale, a city or something, or a place, and all the other data. So my view is, what I think is the best thing to do is more information is always better. So put into the place the more information, all of the information that's correct. If it's a house number, and then or if it's a cemetery and you have all this, it's like plot number and where in the cemetery and the place of the city of the cemetery, the county, the state. The more information put in there, I think that's great, and it doesn't bother the hinting system. And then we will take that and standardize it. If you're using family tree, if you're using partner products, they may not do that. So you have to kind of check and make sure that you're doing a good standard. The standard will have less places, less thing probably, because it won't have all that information. Some cemeteries, many cemeteries we have, but some we don't, for example. And some places in the world we don't have because it's hard to, we're still working on recording every place that ever existed on the earth. I mean, that's a big job. Never really going to be completed, but we do the best we can. I put as much information as I have as I type it in. And then I hit enter, and it'll pick out of there the stuff that best matches against it and puts it in the standard. Now, if you think the standard's not quite right, once the system picks it, you can click the little down arrow next to it and pick the one that's the most accurate place, closest to this place that it really is. And I'd leave the lots of information in the original place you type in. Okay, so that's what I think is the right thing to do. You put more detailed information in the one you enter, and the place name will always be less. because it's narrowing down the city, and we're getting to the closest city we can find that matches that particular place. Okay. All righty. Let's see. Coming back over here. I noticed a new presentation. Okay, did that one. And we talked to Mary about getting a reservation with your temple, calling them up on the phone. What is the new way of scheduling and recording ordinance that is being considered? A survey was sent via email, but I missed the email. I don't know. I didn't get that email either, so I don't remember getting any kind of survey. But the idea is that the temple has built a scheduling tool that you can click and go into and enter in your name and what ordinances that are needed and stuff for whom, and for the baptism part, lets you enter in how many people you're going to bring with you. And it's just a way for the temple to prepare, because in these stages, the three, phase 1, phase 2, 2B, and 3, it's a limited number of people can come. They want to have you schedule appointments so that the other people leave and they can clean what they need to clean, and then the next group comes in to do those work, baptistry or endowments, depending on what phase that you're in. And so they're going to have you schedule, and so you either need to call the temple, or if in some places they have a tool on your phone. The Tools app will allow you to schedule. So I think that's what it's about. I haven't seen it myself, but I've been talking with the temple department. They want us to put in a scheduling link in Family Search when you in certain places. Michael says, what would stop someone's ordinances being done after they are deceased? All the dates are correct. There are policy rules, Michael, with the deceased. For example, even though the person's deceased and all the information is correct, that person must be deceased for at least 1 year before they can be taken to the temple. So that's one thing. There are other policies, like if this person was born less than 110 years ago, then only the closest relatives are allowed to take that person to the temple. And that just safeguards the family, because they don't want some, third cousin 10 times removed or 5 removed or whatever coming and taking that person to the temple when it's when these living people have this personal connection, maybe their brother or their father or their mother. And so it's to honor the family and allow them to have first opportunities to do those ordinances for their family loved ones. So those are a couple examples. There are a few other examples that would stop the person from being able to take a name to the temple. Okay, Nancy, if you want to send me an email, you're talking about the extracted record and IGI and stuff like that. If you'd like to send me an email with the PID for that, then I'll go look and see if I can find out what's up there and reply back to you. Ron@familysearch.org. So Glinda says, sometimes the intermediate records are easier than the beginner batches. That's true. Just I don't know if I know the real criteria that they use for determining beginning or intermediate, but I find the intermediate to be pretty okay and not that tough to do. Okay, let me get down here to the next one on this spreadsheet. This is from Nathan. He says, a while back you mentioned there would be a way to easily view a person's record, like names, vitals, family relationships, as it appeared when a particular ordinance was completed. This was something that helps replace one of the purposes of having a physical temple card. Do we have a timeline of when this might be available? Yeah, this is the completed temple list. It's shipped, and so it's available. I think it's been out for a couple of weeks, something like that. Go check it out. You go to your temple tab, and on the left-hand side, you're going to have completed list. You can go there, and what it does is it shows the data that was on the card for those particular ordinances. So if you printed a card, for instance, of a person, and it had the baptism and confirmation, and then you go and do those ordinances, it will show in the completed list the name that was on the card, the PID, the temple, the ordinance that was done, the date, and which temple it was in. And the completed list is organized by ordinances, basically. If you do a baptism confirmation, they'd be together. If you just do a baptism and then later you do the confirmation, they'll be separate. And so the way we built the completed list is it's just a record of that. And it's the top one on your list is the one that was most recently completed. And then you have options through filtering to say, group them by PID. So you can say group them by PID, and then all of a sudden now you at the top, you'll have all the ordinances for that name all together in one place. And then you can print that list, and it prints out a sheet, or it prints out the ones you want to print. So then you can keep them for your records. That's why earlier, excuse me, earlier Warren had asked, well, is there a way maybe that we could provide to have you get a CSV file so you can have that all in a spreadsheet if you wanted. So that's the purpose of that, is a better way for you to track your completed ordinances. So previously we were sending you a little message in the messages, and it had the name of the person, the ordinance that were done, the temple, and the date. And you had to either print that out or save it or email it to yourself or something. And we felt like that wasn't a very good way to do that. So we changed it so that you get notified to say you have new completed ordinances on your completed list. And then you can click and go see the completed list, and you can see which ones are now complete that were just done. Been talking too much. I'm out of practice talking so much. All right, let me find myself over here on the right again. Okay. All right. The font in the ad box seems to be a bit blurry. Has anyone else noticed that? The font is clear on all other family search pages. The font in the ad box. Where's this ad box, Joanne? Tell us where this ad box is that you're talking about. Bill Buchanan. When entering a non-standard version of the place name, I just click the gray area so that both the input and standard versions are kept. Yeah, you can do that. If you start typing in, it'll give you a drop down of all the standard places. You select one of the standard places, and it fills both fields are filled in the same. It's just that if you have more detail, then you may want to keep that detail, and you can put it right in the place where you type in. Stan, it was an idea where you would have to enter every name that you plan to bring, such as ceilings and everything else. Something is stopping the sun doing the work. So Michael Rowe, I assume that's Rowe, or yeah, Rowe. Send me an email and give me more detail about what's going on. And I need to understand what that is, Michael. So send me an email at ron@familysearch.org. Give me a little more detail about what you're talking about there, why your son was not able to do something, and who you were trying to do it to, meaning what PID. And then I can look into that and get back to you. Okay, Debbie, she asked a question. On the detail page, when you click on edit the name that is written in English, there's a drop-down box at the top of the name field which lists different languages. How or who selects the language? I have found some languages listed as other, some as Khmer and Malagasy. There's a whole long list, Debbie. But then Debbie goes on to say, when JAWS tries to read the name, it can't even do it through the name, though the name is shown as English. So I'm assuming, Debbie, that you're using JAWS to help you read what's on the page. So I am going to take that down as a problem. JAWS not reading the template. It's called a template name. And the template name, let's see, this is for a name on family tree. What that is supposed to mean what country what area of the world, because for English, we use standard, first name, last names, prefix and suffix. If you choose a different language, or a different place, like I don't know, Norway or China or something like that. Not China. Let's see, what would be another one? Like Japanese or something like that. Then the words are different, right? It's last name, then first name in there. So the intent of that thing is to present the name in a fashion that is familiar for that part of the world, in the order that they would expect it to be. And so what that thing is, you're just selecting what type of name it is. It's an English name, Spanish name, a Mongolian name. We have about 30 languages now, so it's any one of those languages. And then it rearranges the fields to make it match what would be considered standard in that country. We're not great at that. We're still working on some of those, but that's the intent of that. Irene asked, what happens to a person's Family Search account when they are marked as deceased by Salt Lake? Is there any way for a family member to access the account if they have the username and password? What happens to living profiles on that deceased person's account? All right, Irene. When a person is a member of the church, because we don't know when a public user dies, we want to figure out a way to do that because we think people would want to tell us or something. But when a member dies, we get notified by Salt Lake because a clerk in their ward marks the member as deceased and enters in, I don't think they even put date. I think they put a place where they died. When that happens, Family Search gets notified that that person is deceased. And then we go look and say, did that person have an account on FamilySearch.org? If they did, then we disable the account. And the reason we disable the account is because that was that user's account. And once it's disabled, then others shouldn't be getting in on it. So once it's disabled, even if you know the username and password, the account will not work. If there were reservations on that person's account, you can contact Salt Lake, contact support, and they can release those reservations back and make them available for people to reserve. We're looking at doing some of that automatically, so I hope that eventually you won't have to call in and do that. You just wait. We'll probably end up waiting probably 90 days because clerks do accidentally kill people that aren't dead. That happens from time to time, and we want people to find out that they're deceased and when they're really not. And so the clerk can fix that, make them back alive again, and then they can use their account. What happens to living profiles on that deceased person's account? So they just sit there in the private area where nobody can see it. So those living profiles are not exposed. And we're looking at potentially trolling through these living areas of those who have become deceased. And if the person's, maybe greater than 150 years old in there, we we may go ahead and mark them deceased. We still are working through how we would do that in a way that's careful and won't inadvertently expose living. So we're very careful and very concerned to make sure that we don't expose anybody's living information unless they volunteer to do so. So that's what is the intent in that area. Okay, over on the right here, today when I started the process to apply a label, the following list, an error message came up and said that the page had to be refreshed. The whole list had to be refreshed. What's going on? Don't know. CL Stan, I'll have to ask the team about that. Happens several times. All right. Well, I can talk to my team on that one. So the following list. I'll check on that one. You have to remember that we just finished conference, and during conference, we don't ship anything. Or if we ship something that's really minor and we're not worried about it causing failure. So maybe this was a little bit more intensive deployment that we did that caused it to kind of not work right until you refreshed. So, but you had to do it several times. So I'll ask them about that and see if that's a problem they found and fixed or what. Okay, back on the other side, it says, David asked, I need details on the recent blog, free cloud storage on Family Search. What? And I haven't seen that article, so maybe I ought to peek a little bit. That's in the blog, I'm assuming. Let's peek at it real quickly here. Free cloud storage on Family Search for saving your most important family memories. Yeah, okay. So this is just about memories. What is the limit? Currently, we don't have a limit for memories. We do have a limit on how many you can have on a single person in the tree, which I believe is 1,000. Will these added pictures be reviewed? Yes, all pictures that are placed into your memories are reviewed so that they are appropriate. And do you have enough room? Of course, we have enough room. So, yeah, we want people to load up their memories. What we don't want is we don't want people to just dump all of their. We don't want you to use Family Search as your place to store all of your pictures that you've ever taken. We want you to store stuff that are meaningful and things that you want to hook to your ancestors or to your living so that you can remember them better and so that their descendants can come to know them better and picture them and see them growing up, different ages. Maybe take an audio of their voice so that they can hear what they sounded like. Remember, that's what we're looking for. We don't limit it currently, but we're hoping that you will pick the most the best stuff and save it, because you have tons of pictures of the same, 15 shots of the same thing. It's just wasting space, and people aren't going to be interested in looking at all of those different versions. So try to be a little judicious on what you want to put up, and that'll just make it all the better when those are attached to people's. Okay. The font. Oh no, that one we already did. Yeah, Joanne, you're going to tell me about what that add box is. So if a person is marked deceased and they have a gallery items, that aren't tagged, are they still viewable? Not at the current moment. But another thing we're thinking about with memories is to put because the current rule, people can set public or private memories. They can make a memory private or public. So what we're thinking, if a person is deceased, they have memories in their gallery. We don't know if they have them all tagged or not. We're not. We could know that. We know that, but I don't know if we're going to analyze that. But I'm thinking that we ought to put a link to their gallery on their deceased page. So the example would be if I die, my person goes into the public space, and along with that would be a permanent link that people can't remove that goes to their gallery. This is what I'm thinking. And then people could go to that gallery. They can't delete pictures or edit pictures or anything like that because they're not the owner, but they could tag them to some other person. They could tag it to the right people, the ones that weren't tagged and attached. So that's kind of the thoughts we're doing. The private ones would still say private, and we're investigating how we can, when's the appropriate time to turn private ones into public ones. And we're still discussing it. Some of the thoughts we have are it could happen when they die. It could happen. Maybe they could say in their gallery, my private ones can be made public after 2 years or 5 years or something like that. So we're still working through that. So right now, if a person dies and they have both private and public, the private will not be viewable until we figure out which exactly way we want to do that. So there's that one. Let me see. I got, what time are we at? 8:18. Okay, we got time for some more. Ron, this is from Tom. Ron, praying for your health of your wife. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Cherie's doing much better. She's bicycling 10 to 15 miles a day to get her legs strong enough. She's moving her about fairly well in the house. Upstairs, it looks pretty good. Coming downstairs is still needs some physical therapy there. So we're doing the bicycle and we're practicing on the stairs. So every day when she's coming down, then I make her, she does extra stairs to go up and down them to sort of strengthen her legs on the stairs. And then she comes and does her bicycle. So she's doing well. She's feeling pretty good. She still has some nerve pains from the surgeries and stuff. We don't know if that will ever go away, but they've told us that in whatever condition she is in about a year, that's the way it'll be for the rest of her life. So she's working to try to improve that so that she's okay for the rest of her life. The question that Tom is asking is, yeah, you were just asking in there, Tom, can a memory automatically go from private to public when a person dies, like Ancestry does? If not automatic, would it be possible to have an option for the contributor to set it when the person passes, the memory becomes public? So yeah, I just described that. Interestingly enough, I didn't even look at that one to read it, but yeah, you asked the same question there in the thing, and our intent is to figure out a way for them to be automatically going to public. We just know that sometimes it's really hard if a close person died just 6 months or so before, and then the owner of the account dies. It may be uncomfortable for the family to see those memories about that person, popping up only after 6 months. So there's cases where people want to wait a little longer, or somebody put in their memory a spiritual experience that was phenomenal, and they want to wait a little while before that's shared with the family and stuff. A number of changes, Keith, have been made to persons on Family Tree by a user named Volunteer Project. Is this something for Family Search has instigated? Yes. Volunteer Project is during the pandemic, when everyone was sent home and a lot of people couldn't go to temples and couldn't do a lot of things. We were asked to provide some activities in Family Search that people could do while they were at home. Missionaries could do this, employees could do this, and so we looked at how things were standardized in Family Tree, And there were millions of places that had a place entered, but had no standardized place. So we built a tool. It's under Get Involved. You can go look at it. It's under Get Involved under FamilySearch.org and the blog area. You can go to Get Involved, and one of the choices is to do this standardization. And when you click that, you get a set of 10 things, 10 places that you need to standardize. And so what we do is we show you the place. We show you some other places that are on that person, because sometimes they're the same place and you can say, oh, okay, I know what place that is, and you can pick the right standard. We auto select the standard for you. But if it doesn't look like it's right, you can click the little down arrow, pick a different standard that matches. Or you can say, nah, I can't figure this out. You say, skip this one, go to the next one. And it's bundles of 10. So people just did 10 of them. And then if they wanted to do more, they could say, click a button that says do more, and you get 10 more. And it's been very successful. Once in a while we hear things of people that put the wrong kind of standard in, but it's pretty small, pretty minor. We had something like 20 million standards got fixed, and now they're getting records and all sorts of things, which is all good things. So that is ours, and we plan to continue to use it. Matter of fact, the team's working on another set of standardization stuff. They'd like to have volunteers. You're welcome to try it. It's pretty addictive. It's pretty simple and easy, and if you don't know the answer, you just skip it and move on, and you find a bunch that you have. We also added the feature that you could select what country you want to deal with. I want to take only things from Mexico, or only things from United States, or only from this other country, and then you can use your expertise to do that. So that's what that is. I probably got one for another one or two questions. So this is Marcia. She said, how many names can I submit to the temple? Since COVID-19 started, I've added over, she's got over 1,000 names she submitted to the temple. Can I submit and release all of them to the temple, or is there a limit? There is no limit. If you have a large reservation list, any size of reservation list, you are free to share to the temple all the ordinances you desire. You can share everything. You can share portions. What I recommend for people is, oftentimes you're doing your work and you end up having lots of people on your reservation list, more than you can do. So I recommend going through the list and picking out the people that have special meaning for you. Maybe if you had 500 names on your list and you pick out 20 or 30 that were really special to you. There was somebody you knew, close people, relatives that you particularly adore. I'd keep those on my reservation list and share all the rest of the temple, because others in the world will pick those up and go do those ordinances and get them done. With ordinances ready, those things will get picked up, and people are using ordinances ready all over the world, and some of them don't have an opportunity to go to the temple as much because they don't have their own names. There's some places that have only know a few generations of names, and records are lost, and so they appreciate when they can push ordinances ready and take somebody else's names and help them. So feel free to share with the temple. You can always pull them back from the temple if you change your mind. So anyway, I recommend doing that. Next one, I got one more, and then I'll be done. I'll run out of air, run out of throat. Actually, I need another drink. I have to get it down the throat, so I got to raise it up. All right. This is from Irene. When I use Ordinances Ready and click Show My Relationship, sometimes it shows my relationship to the person through my husband. Does that mean I should do the work, or is it really my husband's ancestor? My husband and I are 11th cousins. Yeah, you got some relationships in there some way. If Ordinance Ready selected Ordinances Ready follows all the rules of the church, all the policies and everything. So when you click Ordinances Ready, the first thing we do is look on your reservation list. If you have ordinances that you want and they're already on your reservation list, we're going to give them to you to go print and do. We're not going to let you add to your reservation list through ordinances ready, okay, unless you don't have those ordinances. Then in the second place we look at anything you shared with the temple. So if you shared things with the temple and you're asking for ordinances and there's none on your list, but there are ones that you shared with the temple that are those ordinances, we'll pull them back from the temple and give them to you. Put them back on your list, just those ordinances. If we still don't find it, then we go and look at your line. We walk up your line. We walk up and down your line. This is where you're talking about. It says through your husband. It doesn't matter because you have the right to do your husband's stuff and yours, and you go up the line. Usually it tends to go up it's only going to give you ordinances that you can do. So if you're a male, you'll only get male ordinances. If you're female, you only get female ordinances because it's a personalized set of ordinances for you. So it'll go up and down the tree looking to see so many generations back. I think we go 8 to 10 generations, somewhere around there, and look for anybody in your line that needs that ordinance and that ordinance is ready to be done. If it is, we'll reserve it for you, or we'll put it on the list for you and the ordinance is ready. The next thing we do is we look for anybody you're related to in your tree that somebody else may have shared with the temple. If that's true, then we'll pull that back out of the temple and give you those ordinances because you're related to the person, but they're not in your temple list, but somebody else shared it with the temple. We'll give you that. And then the very last one is if we still can't find everything that you're looking for, then we'll just take a name off the global temple list. You may be related, you may not, and then we hand you those. So ordinance is ready also checks for possible duplicates. If there's any possible duplicates, we don't give it to you. If it doesn't qualify for the temple, we don't give it to you. It follows all policies. So if we gave it to you, then you have then it's okay for you to do those ordinances. Some people believe that we hand out spouses or things like that, and that we're not supposed to do, and that's not correct. We verify that that's within the policy, and we'll give it to you. And then all of those things have to be true before we hand you that person. So we skip people all the time because they either don't need the ordinance, they are outside the proper paths, or they're not prepared and ready, or they don't qualify or whatever. Okay. All right. I'll answer these last questions over here, and let me see what I have here. Yeah. Yeah, okay, Joanne. When you click on add spouse or child, a box pops up where you enter the info into the fields. That's correct. So when you're doing that, you're adding a child or you're adding a spouse, so you're going to type it in. If that person already exists, then you can just use the PID to put them in there. Okay. So let's see, what was your prior question, Joanne? There we are. The font in the add box that pops up when adding a spouse or child is what I'm referring to. When you add a spouse or child, I'm trying to see tell me again what the problem was. Oh, nothing shows up in the add box. Is that what it? Any person or child referring to? I got to go back in here, Joanne. Let's see. The font in the add box seems to be a bit blurry. Oh, okay. So adding spouse or child to a family. The add box seems blurry. Okay, I'll go look at that. Okay, I'll look at it on my machine. What browser are you using, Joanne? Can you tell me? Stan, someone broke off a huge branch of my family tree, and it turned out it was a necessary break, but I already had many people on my reservations that are no longer related to. What should I do? Um, um, well, you have two choices, Stan. You can share them to the temple, you can unreserve them, or you can go do them. I think you're okay. I mean, when you reserve them, you thought they were part of your family, so I think that's okay. If you just do what you feel, just you can pray about it, you can think about it and ponder, and I'm sure you'll have an answer, and it'll be the right thing to do. So it's your choice what you do. You have them reserved. You can share them to the temple if you want, and those people can get them. If they use ordinances ready, they'll be able to grab them. Or you can release them, and they'll show up as available for people to reserve. Yeah, they're no longer related to you. Technically, you shouldn't be doing those. So yeah, if you know all of them, just you can just unreserve them if you want, if you know them all. Okay, Joanne. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. This has been great. I hope this has been good for you. We got most questions done, but hey, keep asking questions. We're going to meet again in 2 weeks to do this again. I hope this has been helpful. So on the 22nd of April, we'll meet again at 7:30, this same place. And be sure and have lots of questions for me, because it's not so fun when you don't have anything to talk about. So please go to Facebook and enter in your questions, and I'll have the list, and we'll take care of them. So thank you for all you do. I'll look at answers for these questions. Let me put a little post-it thing on there so I know to look at that spot and put my answers in when I get them. So here's my post-it little sticker I'm going to put on it. Put it right there so I know to go do that for Facebook. So thank you very much. Have a good evening or good morning or good day. And thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.